back to the garage. It's been a couple of weeks since I put out a video, but I've been busy. This old garage here was originally part of a house that was set next to it, and I tore the house down, kept the garage, but the roof line was all jacked up from where it was tied into the house. So the last couple of weeks I have, from the walls up, I have put everything new trusses, new sheeting, everything. New windows over there, so I've been busy. Blew the head gasket on the jet ski, had to fix that. But finally, ready to get back to making some videos, and we're going to be working on the bug right now, doing the paint job on it. Now, I had originally planned on painting everything. And now I've just kind of rethought that. It's like, I like the aluminum, the paint. You put paint on it, if it doesn't stick, it flakes off, makes a mess. So what I'm going to do is we're going to end up painting the hold downs, the valve covers, of course, because they're steel, they'll end up rusting. I'm going to shoot, now we're going to be using an aluminum engine paint on it. We'll do the cylinders because they're cast iron. Go ahead and paint the oil pump plate there. Same on the other side, the valve cover and the cylinder. And then I'll take and probably just go ahead and put some high heat black on the exhaust pipes. And that's all I'm going to do as far as painting. I mean, the rest of all this will be inside the cowling. And by the time I get this all done, I may end up wanting to change the look of it anyway, and whatever paint job I'd put on it now might not be what I want later. Okay, one more thing I do before I paint the valve covers is I want to go ahead and get the gasket set up for them, because it's got to be cut down. But I'm going to paint just the outside lip and then silicone the gasket onto the surface there to where they'll stay with the covers if you have to take them off. So right now I'm just going to measure across here, subtract the difference, and cut some sections out of these gaskets, and then we'll butt them together and then put them in the valve cover. Okay, it looks like we need to cut out about 2 3/4 inches out of these, so I'm just going to slice it here, set one piece in there, and then cut the other side back and see how it matches up. And we still got some overlap, so cut them back a little more. And that's getting pretty close. And there we go. I will silicone this. Once I've shot a little paint on the lip, I will silicone this in place and make sure to silicone the little gap there. Well, that should work nice. Okay, next up, gave him a coat of paint. Still haven't painted the outside yet, but I got just a light dust coat on the inside there, and then I think 3 coats around here where the gasket goes. So what I'm going to do is silicone the gaskets in place. And I intended to do this earlier today and got tied up at the Corvette. So here it is, 11 o'clock at night. I'd like to get them glued on there. That way they'll be cured by tomorrow, so I can go ahead and start putting stuff together and painting the outside. And hopefully I have enough silicone to do this. The tube is about used up. Once the spout dried up, I go to poking holes in it when I need silicone. And the only spot that's still good is this lump right in here. So hopefully we've got enough to do the job. Another hole there. And start working around, coating the lip on the inside of the cover. Take just a little silicone and put on the ends of the gasket here. They got the gasket silicone on there. Put some grease around this to where the gasket won't stick to the head. Go ahead and snap the lid up. And that will keep everything compressed like it needs to be and let the silicone dry. And then tomorrow I can go in and take the covers back off, clean them up, because I've got a little silicone here and there. Clean all that up good. Then I can put them back on the engine and paint them right where they're at, because sliding this up there is going to jack up the paint. But it is a nice tight fit. They shouldn't leak. But that'll be ready for in the morning. Okay, we've had the valve covers on there drying for a couple of days. I got involved in some other projects. So let's see what they look like. Well, they're all fastened on there nice. That slid down just a little bit, but I'll just trim the bottom off. It's still hitting plenty good on there to seal up. Other side looks about perfect. Now, if you've watched many of my videos, you know I'll change plans right in the middle of a project. Because I originally was not going to paint the case. I just was going to paint the cylinders because I was afraid they would rust. Well, I got to painting the cylinders and a little bit of overspray on the case, and it looked really good. So I just went ahead and start misting a light coat on everything, and it came out really nice. That aluminum paint blends with the magnesium housing. So I ended up shooting everything. It's not enough of a coat of paint that it'll end up peeling. It's just a real thin mist, so probably just wear through if anything happens. Then you spray a little more back on. So right now, I'm going to clean up the valve covers where I would have got some silicone on the outside, put them back on, and then we'll paint the heads with the valve covers on. Give them a light coat of paint, spin it around, touch up the back. And then we need to hook up the oil lines, and I want to hook up the spark plug wires. Okay, valve cover's back on, everything's cleaned up, so we'll just start giving everything a little mist of paint. Wanted to paint those with them on there because I don't know how you would get that hole down on and off without scuffing the paint up. And that's pretty much it for the engine paint. I'll get it up on the stand. I'll probably shoot a little bit on the bottom of the pan, but other than that, everything looks pretty good. Oh, I still need to put some paint on the exhaust pipes. I didn't have any paint, so I'm gonna have to pick some up. And while the paint's drying, I'm gonna go ahead and put the spark plugs in. I'm using the NGK BR6HS. Seemed to be a good plug for the Volkswagens. They were gapped at about 22 thousandths right out of the box. I'm going to leave them at that. Didn't look up what a Volkswagen is supposed to be set at because it doesn't have Volkswagen ignition. And so we're just going to go with it. Put a little anti-seize on the threads. So hopefully they'll come out later. All right, working on the spark plug wires here. Not going to use these
wires that came with the magneto, because they're apparently designed to screw onto a special spark plug. We need to be able to put the plug wire I am going to be using, which are some tractor, solid core tractor wires. I use them on jet skis, everything else, they work good for that. But this piece screws onto the back of the mag, and then that holds it in place. I need to get that separated from the steel braid. I thought possibly it was just soldered on there, so I heated one up, couldn't get the braid pulled out. And I need to make the inside diameter of this close to the spark plug wire. And then we'll put something in there to where we screw this down. It will compress around the spark plug wire and make sure it doesn't come out. So right now I think I'm going to take this piece, cut the edges of it off, and take that to the lathe. Since I couldn't pull that out, I'll just drill all the way through it. And funny story, we were in Oshkosh 20 some years ago when there was a guy that had a Hummelbird, still half VW. It was the Hummelbird's a lot faster than the Ultra Cruiser, but it still used a half VW. And he was coming in to land at Oshkosh and had to land on one of the city streets because he had an engine failure. And what had happened was one of his spark plug wires had came off the spark plug. And the funny thing is, he was using the actual style that screws on like the magneto came with, and it still managed to come off. And a half VW doesn't fly very good on one cylinder. And he also said he ran a red light when he landed, but nobody was injured. His plane wasn't damaged, and he was good to go. But I thought that was pretty funny that he had it set up, aircraft quality stuff, and it still came apart. And with 2 cylinders, you don't have margin for error. All right, let's see how drilling this thing out works. Well, it was apparently 2 pieces. I wondered how it was fit together. All right, that gave me that right there once that popped the retainer out. Okay, so that left us with 2 nuts and 2 ferrules once I cleaned that inside out. And these are just about the perfect size for the spark plug wire, which I'm using 7mm wire. So right now I just need to get something to put a little squeeze on it as I tighten that down. Okay, I think I got a workable solution here. Got a little piece of 1/4" gas line. And that is a nice snug fit in there. It goes in and hits the ledge inside, leaves a little bit sticking out. So we'll stack this, that on the end of a plug wire, and when you tighten that down, it should put enough squeeze on that to hold the plug wire in place. Okay, here's the layout. The nut, the little ferrule, the piece of hose, and the end piece for the spark plug wire. That in on the plug. Push that to the bottom. That is a nice snug fit. Push that in there. Bring that around. Shove it on down. And there we go. That's not going anywhere. And we get the intake pipe on there. I'll probably zip tie that to the intake. Yep, zip tie that in place and nothing's going anywhere. Now I need to do that on the other side. Second spark plug wire's on there. Went on just like the first one. Nice and solid connection. I'm real happy with that. Now, got to hook up the oil cooler. So these fittings go in. These adapters to go from the 1/4" pipe that we tap those to the 1/8" pipe, and then to the 1/4" hose connection. So we'll get them put in the top and then cut the lines to go back over here. Okay, there's the fittings on top. I used number 2 Permatex to put the fittings in. And as much as I complained about number 2 Permatex when I was taking this engine apart, it really is good stuff. Just you got to use it in the right amount in the right locations. But for that, it worked good. For clamps, I'm going to use Oetiker style squeeze clamps because these work really good, and they have a little tongue on the inside. I think they're listed on McMaster-Carr's website as tongue and groove clamps. And when you crimp that down with the special tool, that tongue will make a nice 360-degree seal that you don't get with a normal worm clamp. So these are especially good in fuel situations. And since the crimp kind of acts like a spring, they don't lose tension as the weather gets colder and like the fuel line contracts. I had a lot of trouble on some older fuel injected cars with a regular worm clamp. With the wintertime, you'd have to go through and tighten everything up because they'd start leaking. These prevent that. So I got one on there. I'll go ahead and crimp these 2 bottom ones. And I'll just slip the top ones on. I'm not going to put the hoses on yet because I'm sure I'll have the intake manifold off when I'm moving it over to the test stand. And so I'll probably just use worm clamps up there for now. Final installation, I'll probably use the crimp clamps. I use a special tool like this that grabs onto that section there and gives it a squeeze, pinches it together. Turn that. And that is good. And these also don't tend to damage the hose like a worm clamp will, especially on these smaller hoses. The only problem is sometimes getting the tool in there to where you can crimp them, but this particular one has a crimper there and it has a crimper on the side, so you can come in at a 90-degree angle if you need to. All this stuff is available. I buy the clamps. I bought this pincher from McMaster-Carr. Okay, I left the oil lines disconnected up top because, like I say, I'll have that manifold off before I put it on the test stand. I hadn't used some of my Honda Bond, which was the gasket material I used on the cases. Glued the breather down in the check valve plate. Put my little handy dandy oil plug in there. Still got to find a dipstick. I know I've got one over there somewhere that came with this engine. And I think they have those extended to where they lock on, but they stick up through the cowl. Don't worry about that later. Right now, I think all I have left to do right now is shoot some aluminum paint on the exhaust headers. I wasn't sure what kind of color I was going to have to go with on the paint, but I found some flat aluminum in the VHT Flameproof. So that'll look good on there. And there it is. Exhaust is on. Everything's on about as far as I can go until I have it mounted on a test stand. And the test stand is the next project. And I've been giving a lot of thought on how I wanted to build the test stand. And I think I've come up with something that'll be pretty cool when I get it done. So be watching for that. It'll probably be another couple of weeks before I get that done because right now I'm going to go order some parts and then I got some welding to do and get it mounted up. Once it's on the test stand, then we can go ahead and set up the carburetor, throttle. We'll put the oil pressure, oil temperature gauge on there. Probably make some kind of little instrument cluster to hold it on the test bench. So we can run it up just like we would in the airplane, make sure everything works like it should. So be watching for that video. Till then, thanks for watching.